Hello and welcome to the Coronavirus Lockdown Livestream, the show that brings welcome levity to the end of the world, lifting the spirits of many of you currently in self-isolation by infecting as many as possible with comfort and distraction as the apocalypse unfolds. Nice to see 22 of you ready and waiting, raring to go, it must be said, on what for me is Monday morning, but what I guess for some of you is late on Sunday evening if you're watching from the west coast of America, United States of, or maybe British Columbia. There you go, impressing you all with my geographic knowledge. But yes, here we are. And what I usually do at this point in the show, as I wait for my panelists to assemble in the green room, is I read a little bit of Bryson, because that's what everyone should really do at the start of every day, regardless of what book it is. This particular book is Bill Bryson, The Body, A Guide for Occupants. And I have been reading the relevant sections. Oh dear, I've not written down the page number. I'll have to figure that out. Oh no, I've put a bookmark in, that's fine. I have been reading the relevant sections on viruses, because it's pertinent to what we're going through at the moment. It's good to understand one's enemy, I think. Let me just find out where we're up to. Okay, bear with me one moment. Okay, I think we're beginning at the start at the top of. Yeah, I think we're beginning at the top of page 326. We forget how devastating many diseases were until quite recent times. Take diphtheria. Into the 1920s, before the introduction of a vaccine, it struck down more than 200,000 people a year in America, killing 15,000 of them. Children were especially susceptible. It usually started with a mild temperature and a sore throat, so at first was easily mistaken for a cold, but it soon became much more serious as dead cells accumulated in the throat, forming a leathery coating. The term diphtheria comes from the Greek for leather. The disease, incidentally, is correctly pronounced diphtheria. Oh, sorry. Bit late that, Bill. Diphtheria, not diphtheria. That made breathing increasingly difficult, and the disease spread through the body, shutting down organs one by one. Death tended to follow swiftly. There were many cases of parents losing all their children in a single outbreak. Today, diphtheria has become so rare, just 5 cases in the United States in the most recent decade measured, that many doctors would struggle to recognize it. Typhoid fever was no less frightening and caused at least as much distress. The great French microbiologist Louis Pasteur understood pathogens better than anyone of his day, but still lost 3 of his 5 children to typhoid fever. Typhoid and typhus have similar names and symptoms, but are different diseases. Both are bacterial in origin and marked by sharp abdominal pain, listlessness, and a tendency to grow confused. Typhus is caused by a Rickettsia bacillus. Typhoid is caused by a type of Salmonella bacillus. I probably pronounced bacillus wrong as well, Bill, and is the more serious of the two. A small proportion of people infected with typhoid, between 2 and 5%, are infectious but have no symptoms of illness, making them highly effective, if nearly always unwitting, vectors. The most famous such carrier was a shadowy cook and housekeeper named Mary Mallon, who became notorious in the early years of the 20th century as Typhoid Mary. Almost imagine having that as your nickname. Typhoid Lloyd has more of a ring to it. Almost nothing is known of her beginnings. She was variously reported in her own day as being from Ireland, England, or the United States. All that can be said for certain is that from young adulthood, Mary worked in a number of well-to-do households, mostly in the New York City area. And wherever she went, two things always happened. People came down with typhoid, and Mary abruptly disappeared. In 1907, after a particularly bad outbreak, she was tracked down and tested, and in the process became the first person to be confirmed as an asymptomatic carrier. That is, was infectious but had no symptoms herself. So fearsome did this make her that she was held in protective custody, very much against her will, for 3 years. She was released when she promised never again to take a job handling food. Mary, alas, was not the most trustworthy of souls. I was going to say, that's quite a big thing to make someone promise. Almost immediately, she began working in kitchens again, spreading typhoid to a number of new locations. She managed to elude capture until 1915, when 25 people developed typhoid at the Sloan Hospital for Women in Manhattan, where Mary had been working under an assumed name as a cook. 2 of the victims died. Mary fled, but was recaptured and spent the remaining 23 years of her life under house arrest on North Brother Island in the East River till her death in 1938. She was personally responsible for at least 53 cases of typhoid and 3 confirmed deaths, but possibly many more. The particular tragedy of it is that she could have spared her unfortunate victims if she had just washed her hands before handling food. Typhoid may not worry people as it once did, but it still affects more than 20 million people a year around the world and kills between 200,000 and 600,000, depending on whose figures you rely on. The United States has an estimated 5,750 cases each year, about 2/3 brought in from abroad, but nearly 2,000 acquired in the United States. If you want to imagine what a disease might do if it became bad in every possible way, you could do no better than consider the case of smallpox. Smallpox is almost certainly the most devastating disease in the history of humankind. It infected nearly everyone who was exposed to it and killed about 30% of victims. The death toll in the 20th century alone is thought to have been around 500 million. 20th century alone, good grief. Smallpox's astounding infectiousness was vividly demonstrated in Germany in 1970 after a youthful tourist developed it upon returning home from a trip to Pakistan. He was placed in hospital quarantine, but opened his window one day to sneak a cigarette. This, it has been reported, was enough to infect 17 others some 2 floors away. Smallpox only infects humans, and that proved to be its fatal weakness. Other infectious diseases, flu notably, can disappear from human populations but rest up, as it were, among birds or pigs or other animals. Smallpox had no such reservoir to retreat to as humans gradually persecuted it into smaller and smaller patches of the planet. At some point in the distant past, it had lost the ability to infect other animals in order to focus exclusively on humans. As it turned out, it chose the wrong enemy. Now, the only way any human can get smallpox is if we inflict it upon ourselves. Unfortunately, that has happened. In 1978, at the University of Birmingham, a medical photographer named Janet Parker went home from work early one afternoon in late summer, complaining of a blinding headache. Soon she was very ill indeed, fevered, delirious, and covered in pustules. she had contracted smallpox via an air duct from a lab 1 floor below her office. That is unlucky. There, a virologist named Henry Bedson had been studying one of the last smallpox samples on Earth still allowed for research. He was frantically working against a deadline before his own stocks were to be destroyed and evidently grew careless in keeping them safe. Poor Janet Parker died about 2 weeks after being exposed, and in so doing became the last person on Earth to be killed by smallpox. She had actually been vaccinated against the disease 12 years earlier, but smallpox vaccine doesn't last. When Bedson learned that smallpox had escaped from his lab and killed an innocent person, he went out to his garden shed and committed suicide. So in a sense, he was smallpox's last victim. The hospital ward on which Parker was treated was sealed off for 5 years. Good grief. That's a tragic story. 2 years after Parker's terrible death, on the 8th of May 1980, the World Health Organization announced that smallpox had been eradicated from the earth, the first and so far only human disease to be made extinct. Officially, just 2 stocks of smallpox remain in the world. Destroy them! They're clearly very infectious. In government freezers at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia, and at a Russian virology institute near Novosibirsk in Siberia. Good grief, destroy those things. That's reckless. That really is reckless. Right, I think we're going to leave it there on that grim note. But doesn't that just show that, diseases are nothing new in the context of the coronavirus? Far more deadly diseases exist and have caused unfathomable death, sometimes in very tragic circumstances. And on that happy note, we bring in Mr. D'Souza.
Hello there. How you going?
Mic check successful. We can hear you. I'm doing very well.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I wanted to hear all of that that information. Gee, it makes you scared just to even breathe, doesn't it?
It does. I just don't understand why there are still even 2 samples of smallpox. Let's eradicate the thing now that we know that even just studying it in the lab can kill people,
Or 2 floors down, you're not safe. My goodness. It's a worry. But
and let's face it, okay, it's frozen. Freezers are reliant on energy and electricity. What happens if that, just destroy it?
We don't need to worry because they're in very safe hands. I mean, it's only Russia and America that hold it. So what could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong, indeed. So, how's the end of the world going down under?
Well, we definitely had some changes last night. The government definitely tightened things up. The official policy, I printed it up to share some of it with you all if you're interested. But yes, they have now finally recognised the seriousness of the situation, and we have gone to limits of gatherings being no more than 2 people, even if that's outdoor. Of course, social distancing, or as Chloe very well pointed out, physical distancing might be the better term to use. But there's still so many exclusions. Essential workplace, healthcare settings, pharmacies, food shopping, schools, universities, that's all fine unless you can study from home. Public transport, because, viruses don't ever transmit on public transport. Essential gatherings, social distancing, good hygiene practices, and then functions. They've clarified the ruling on functions. Weddings have a limit of 5 attendees. Celebrant, bride, and groom, 2 witnesses. That's it. And funerals have a limit of 10 people, but I'm not quite sure if you count the deceased or not. I mean, it probably doesn't matter how close you stand to them. They're not going to really care anyway. But that's the new rules that they've brought in.
Wow. Okay. Well, good. It's good that there are rules being brought in because it's no doubt going to save lives.
Oh, for sure. It's great that they're finally catching up with what so many other parts of the world realised weeks ago.
Indeed. We have some comments already coming in. Julia Dasmin with her unfortunately positioned animal, which seems to be in some state of rigor mortis at this point, says, "Good morning, everyone. I hope all are well. This is becoming a fixture of the morning before I start work." Well, nice to know we are your fixture, Julia.
I've been called many things, Julia, but fixture's a good one. Okay.
Cynthia Luna is calling in or commenting from Huntsville, Texas, the United States of America, just in case anyone needs clarification. Eric Larson, "This is my middle of the night routine now." And he is laughing out loud, literally, as he types that. Let's see here. Rianne saying, "Good morning, everyone." Good morning, Rianne. Cynthia is apparently loving the readings. Well, I don't know how much you loved that last one, because that was pretty grim. But again, I just think it's good to have some perspective on things, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
David Morgan says, "Good morning. I hereby surrender my personal information to Zuck in order to join you." David is referring to my Twitter announcement in which I said, "We're broadcasting on Facebook, but if you don't want Zuckerberg to get his mitts on your deets, check out Lloyd Evans on Twitch." So I just want to give people options. You know, if you're not comfortable with Mr. Zuckerberg knowing everything about you, Twitch is should be your preferred platform for the live stream. Okay, so Susan Wheatley is commenting from Melbourne, same landmass as your good self, Mr. D'Souza.
Yes, and thanks for being alert to the time change too, Susan. So with the daylight savings, that's great.
Extra marks there, Susan. Extra marks.
Absolutely.
And Marguerite also deserves extra marks. She is. It's currently 4 p.m. in the Northern Territory in Australia.
Beautiful part of the world.
I'll have to take your word for it, Sacha, but it certainly does sound exotic to my English
safest part
ears.
of Australia. Yeah,
really,
definitely. Oh, definitely the safest out of everything at the moment. Yeah,
it wasn't the safest in the Second World War, though, was it? Because the Japanese lurked. It might be said. Rianne says, "We wait for your science lecture every morning, Lloyd, instead of boring prayers." Yes, well, you can call my reading this morning many things. Boring, probably not one of them if you were actually listening to it.
If you're missing a prayer, Rianne, I'm sure that we could get we could get somebody on who's very good at imitating our prayers.
Oh, good grief, yeah. Well,
Arthur?
I think Arthur has been restrained this morning by his work arrangements. So, but I'm sure he'll be back on the show. And I already have someone in the YouTube comments suggested what song he should sing next. It was Elton John, "I'm Still Standing." I would like to hear Arthur give that a crack.
Did you see the ones I sent you today, Lloyd? The parodies that have been done of those 3 songs? You might have to check through the feed.
No, I did see you did send me one where someone was singing a version of "Hello."
Yes, that's Adele's
version. That was quite funny.
And then there was "My Corona." That was a great version. So if anyone wants to, go down a rabbit hole of YouTube, just search "My Corona," the parody of "My Sharona." Search the Adele parody. Excellent. Well worth it.
Twitch gives us Baxter John, who is saying good morning, or guten Morgen, it should be really said, if we're being accurate.
That's good.
From Germany. Well, lovely to have you with us, Baxter John. Let's see here. So Gina Freeman says, "I have purchased Bill Bryson's book through the Google Play Store. Can't wait to read it." It's a fantastic book. It's one of those books where, and I'm actually reading that chapter on diseases for the first time, and you saw me kind of react a few times to what I was reading. Every chapter is like that, and particularly some of the information from the earlier chapters, which I'm up to chapter 3, but I've skipped ahead to one of the final chapters. But it's one of those books where you're repeatedly annoying your partner by saying, "Oh, you'll never guess this." So definitely a good resource of information. And Baxter John says, "By the way, in case you wonder, J.W. Contrafet is no longer with us, but no worries, resurrected as me. Well, there you go, Sacha. Possibly an indication that we are in the end times because we are already seeing the dead rise.
Absolutely. Or could it be reincarnation? Maybe the other religions had it right.
No, he says resurrected.
Oh, he does. Yes, that's true.
So maybe this is like a Beth Sarim thing. You never know. I'm just putting it out there, just floating the theory. I'm not saying that's what's happening. Do not sue the Coronavirus Lockdown Livestream if people that you want to see resurrected aren't resurrected. Julia Dasmin says, we are all okay, but my son, your dog isn't okay, Julia. Let's be completely honest about that. But my son is at university in Bath and will not be able to come home for the holidays. That sounds terrible. But I am missing him and also worried. The thing is, when you're in this situation, Sacha, you want your family together, don't you? So yeah. I can really sympathize with Julia.
Absolutely, there. Julia. Yeah. Yeah, it's not the same. I mean, we have amazing technological advances now that we can video chat, but it's not the same as a hug. And I get that. I don't think any of us will ever take for granted the privilege of hugging our loved ones again once this is all past and being able to hang out with our friends and family members.
Better news from Rianne, who says, I'm over the moon. Our son may leave the hospital today. We'll know for sure after 10 o'clock. Well, that's really awesome. Good news, Rianne. Again, hopefully it all pans out and you're able to be reunited.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was suffering symptoms, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, I believe so.
Let's see here. Lots of, even someone from Los Angeles. So as I hoped, because obviously there's been a change in time, hasn't there? There's been, daylight savings time in America. So, or no, it's actually in Europe, isn't it?
Yes.
In Europe, which means that the show is now broadcasting at a slightly more agreeable time on the west coast of America. So hopefully we can get a few more people of the American persuasion to make this a truly international live stream. Tracy says she's still trying to swap 4 toilet rolls for 4-bedroom beachside house. I don't think they're quite at that level of value yet, but give it maybe a few more weeks. Maybe you will be able to enter into real estate transactions using toilet paper.
Well, doesn't that just open up a whole new world of marketing potential? You talk about the lengths people will go to for toilet rolls. One of our dear friends, Kimmy O'Donnell, messaged saying that their local pizza place is doing free delivery of pizza, and if you spend over $30 or $35, you get a free roll of toilet paper. Now, pre-corona, when would that have ever been a marketing thing that you would want to link your product with a roll of toilet paper? But now, that might be.
I can imagine people going for that, actually.
Yeah.
You know, especially if it's a spicy pizza. Just putting that out there, you know. Do with that what you will. Ray of Light says, anyone got a highlighter? I forgot to mark my book. Need to do it before Lloyd notices. I think Ray is referring to my reading of Bill's book. But I'm not asking, in fairness, Ray of Flight, I'm not doing any questions. So there are no questions. You can just listen. You
don't want to do a written review style, or no?
Don't put ideas in my head, Sacha. You don't want to see where that goes. Okay, I'm reining things in at this point.
True,
I'm exercising restraint. You do not want a rotten review, Lloyd Evans style. That's just gonna turn away viewers.
Ray, you started this.
Gosh, lots of messages springing through. Okay.
While you find that, I've got to share with everybody. I'm not sure if it will come through on the screen, but because there's been so much misinformation and confusion as to the policies and how we should handle this whole situation, somebody sent me a fantastic meme that has a go. Now, I know we're not supposed to get political, but we will for a moment, that said a little bit about how our government's been handling things. And they summed it up by saying this. This is a visual representation of our Prime Minister's stand and his address to the nation. Makes perfect sense, right? Yes, everybody was so lost at the end of it.
Yvette says, you're getting more Americans on here. Easier an hour earlier, only really late instead of hella late. Well, maybe, Yvette, it's sufficiently early for an appearance from the Fiquette household. I'm just, again, putting it on the table.
Well,
You
they
can
set a
take it or leave
precedent.
it.
They set a precedent the other time at 2 a.m., wasn't it? So come on,
You
guys.
know what you need to do. You know what you need to do, Yvette.
No pressure, but
no pressure.
we could disfellowship you if you don't join us, but, you know. Oh, sorry for the trigger, everyone.
Bernabas Collins, midnight here in California. Good evening. Good evening to you, Bernabas Collins.
And what's with that animal? Is that in the avatar?
That looks like to me like a bear that is in the process of falling from the tree canopy. And I don't envy the situation that the photographer finds themselves in.
Oh, that's reminded me of something amazing, if I may go off tangent.
Yeah.
So you mentioned bears. I'm not sure if everybody's seen the amazing trend that's taken over the world of putting teddy bears in windows. So we've been finding children have been really distressed at the change of routine. So somebody came up with the idea, and it seems to have taken the world by storm, of putting your teddy bear in your window. We did this yesterday when all of our suburbs seems to have bears in their windows, and it was the cutest thing. Families were walking by with their little 2 and 3-year-olds. It was so beautiful to see their excitement on their face when they would find the window in the street and point at the bears and take a note of who's got what. It was just beautiful. So if you want to do something to brighten up your street and your community, dive into Google and have a look at what's prompted this whole thing of putting teddy bears in your window. We've seen it here, and we've seen the joy on the faces of children that have seen them, and it's well worth it. It's beautiful.
I don't have a teddy bear in my window, Sacha. Does that make me a bad person?
Oh, totally.
Thanks for that confirmation. Julia says, my dog is fine. He is called Snooky, and he was asleep.
Aww.
Well, thank you for confirming that he was, in fact, sleeping and not deceased.
He looks very comfortable.
He does look...
Yeah.
Have you seen that one? It's one of those images that just does the rounds on Facebook. There's one where a cat's sleeping in the jaws of a dog. Have you seen that?
Wow, no.
It's amazing how animals can fall asleep in the most unlikely positions.
Wow, the trust involved there. That's beautiful.
Exactly. That's one hell of a trust exercise. Right, now, we seem to have reached a point in the show where there is something missing. A vacuum, if you will.
Oh, you mean Brandon hasn't joined us yet?
That can only be filled with poetry. You just reach a point where you need words that have been finely crafted by a master poet into thoughts and feelings that can render one speechless. Fortunately, we have the internet's foremost poet right here in the Coronavirus Lockdown Livestream, or at least that's how several people that I know of would think of him.
Damn you, Evans.
So it's without further ado that we unleash on this lockdown live stream Sacha's Poetry Corner.
Okay. Well, this is spurred on by something we managed to find at the shops yesterday. Okay, so here we all are in this worldwide dilemma while people go crazy for toilet paper clamour. But as strange as we find this new situation, please for a moment use your imagination and know that this weird time, it will pass. But for now, everyone, stay home on your ass.
Is that it?
Yeah. Did you not get the whole thing?
I did get it. I was enjoying it so much. While I was still wrapping my head around the clever rhyming of dilemma and clamour.
Yeah, it's a stretch. It's a stretch, I know.
It's a stretch, and one that kind of had me, does that work? And while I was still thinking, does that work? The poem had ended.
I thought you were you were getting cranky at me for using the word "ass" online, and that we're
No. You should definitely use that more. You can't have enough of that.
Oh, good. You've heard it here, viewers. Lloyd says you can never get enough using the word "ass."
Well, let's see. It doesn't really matter what I think. What matters is what do the viewers think. Now, interestingly, aren't you supposed to be working, Arthur?
Yeah. Come on, Arthur.
Because if you're not working, I can give you some work.
Arthur, we warmly welcome you to join us on another episode of the Coronavirus Lockdown.
Right, so Steve Thu says, "Woo, bring it on, Sacha." LOL. He is laughing out loud as he writes that. Baxter John says, "Hooray!" Clearly, Baxter John is excited about the poetry. And after the fact, Eric Larson says, "That was beautiful." So we have at least one person in the comments who literally finds that poem about toilet paper, quote, beautiful. So I feel at this point that I've provided a service to the world in bringing forth a thing of beauty into people's homes.
And in the absence of that, there was me.
Patricia Brown says, "Haha." I'm assuming she's laughing in a kind of supportive way rather than a derisory way.
Or maybe it's in a ha. You never know.
Interesting rhyming there. Dilemma and clamour. What did you think, Fiquette, of Sacha's poem?
Be kind.
What did you think of Sacha's poem? Are they still figuring out the audio? Good grief. Technical issues.
Working with amateurs.
I know. At least Brandon isn't the technical guy for JW Survey. Oh,
that's
he
right.
is.
Oops.
They're making fun of you.
Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear.
Oh, I can't hear.
Oh, it was nothing. Just forget it. Yeah. Can you hear us now, Brandon?
No, because I have the earphone. I'll give it to him.
Have you sanitized?
So we would just say how awesome you are, Brandon, and how you can fix literally any technical problem.
Yeah, just give it a few minutes.
Yeah, that's all we said.
Marie Adamantum says, "Yay, I stayed up late enough to join. Hello, fellow Californians and everyone." Hello, Marie. Patricia Brown loves your poem, Sacha.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you.
Let's just see what's up. Lots of comments coming through. You've really hit a nerve. Cherie Dubois says, "There once was a man named Lloyd." I think she's trying to start her own poem. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. We could go somewhere with that. Cherie, message me privately later. We'll work on that one.
It wouldn't be the first time Sacha has used someone else's poetry in Sacha's Poetry Corner. I'm just going to say that.
True.
Tracy Jeffrey says, "Crikey, I went out for a minute, then came back to the old JW poetry thing we did back in 60s and 70s at social events." Don't reduce it to that, Tracy. This is high-end poetry. This is not just your old kind of congregation get-together thing. This is, well, it's been described as beautiful by at least one person on the internet, and that's good enough for me. Jeanette reflecting my criticism of the brevity of the poem there, Sacha. Although Eric Larson says it's quality over quantity. So he certainly must appreciate the rhyming gymnastics that were done there.
It's all about getting out before it all turns into a flaming mess. So yeah, drop the rhymes, run out, and leave it.
Arthur says he's working as of tomorrow, in which case, Arthur, link coming your way. I had assumed you were working today. So let me get you a link, and then you can come along and do your duty, which is to do Arthur's sing-along, or sing-along with Arthur, if we're going to be very specific about the wording of that segment. So how are things going with the Fiquettes? They look like they are trying to figure things out in terms of headphones. No. It's just nice to observe
We
them.
still don't have them?
I just think it's like a reality
they-
show, isn't it? It's like a free reality show where we get to peer in on their lives. Maybe they'll do
It's
something
like the Big
interesting.
Brother house. While they're working their audio out, can I share with you some funny social distancing pickup lines that we've heard could be put to place for all those who might be in the dating scene. We've got a few suggestions that you can use because, it's not like you can just sidle up to somebody at the bar and offer to buy them a drink anymore. Things have changed. The world's different. So how are you going to let somebody know that you're interested? Okay, so here's a couple of these distancing pickup lines. Hey, baby, if COVID-19 doesn't take you out, can I? Since all the public libraries are closed, I'm checking you out instead. Without you, my life is as empty as a supermarket shelf. I saw you from across the bar. Stay there. And of course, is that hand sanitizer in your pocket? Or are you just happy to be within 6 feet of me? Okay.
At this point, I kind of regret that we don't have a tumbleweed video with the required sound of the wind whistling. I don't really know
just doing a public service. Look,
I don't really know what to do with any of that,
single.
Sacha. I'm going to be completely honest with you. What are your thoughts, Arthur? We can't hear your audio, mate.
Sorry, I was muted on my headset.
Very clever.
Sorry.
Very clever.
So first of all, good morning to all of our viewers around
Good
here.
morning.
And what's the
Or good
verdict
afternoon. Good
what's the verdict
afternoon to
on,
Australia and.
What's the verdict on the chat-up lines, Arthur?
I really love how Sacha put all of this together. It's brilliant.
You love how he put
I
it
think we're
together.
good, folks.
Yeah,
And are the Fiquettes finally sorted?
I guess so.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're super low, Lloyd. Arthur's really loud and you're really low. So trying to figure out what's up with that.
I should put this a bit.
Well, I don't have a volume thing on my mic. I literally just have to.
All right, I'm gonna leave and come.
Oh, okay. He's left. So I guess at this point, while we wait for the Fiquettes to, I've got to get it all set up on another tab. Oh, I'm being told that Covert Fade will be joining us shortly, so it's going to be, by the time we finish, this is going to be a crowded lockdown live stream.
Wow.
But I do need.
Excellent.
Oh, the Fiquettes are trying again. Let's see.
Oh, now we
Is this
can
better?
hear.
Oh,
Yeah,
good.
we can hear you now.
Excellent. Excellent. So we have Covert Fade joining in about 10 minutes. And I'm thinking that being the case, we should hold off on Sing Along with Arthur until we have a full panel to assist if needed. I'm not saying Arthur does need help with backing singers, but if he wanted backing singers, we'd have more available. So while I put together get the link ready for him to do his part, perhaps we can hear from the Fiquettes. What's new? What's new with you guys?
What's new with us?
You go.
Day number what of quarantine?
Oh, yeah. It's anxious to get outside. So I went grocery shopping today.
Yeah.
Put on my mask, my gloves. It was the weirdest experience, but the grocery stores were so clean. It was amazing.
Oh, good. And what were they like? Were they crowded, or was there a line to get in? Were they doing? Did they have like a maximum allocation of shoppers?
When I went, there wasn't. There was a policeman at the door. So I don't know why he was there because there wasn't very many people when I went shopping. But in the store itself, they were wiping down everything before they had the next person check out in line. So it was really strange, like spray everything, the conveyor belt, wash it off, and then the next person in line. I've never seen the shopping carts, or what do you call them? Trolleys? I don't know what you call them. But anyway, the carts on wheels, they're amazingly clean. Never saw them that clean in my life. So it was an interesting experience.
Okay. Well, and you managed to get sufficient amounts of toilet paper.
There was no toilet paper. There was no cleaning supplies.
Under normal circumstances, that would be considered a very odd question, wouldn't it? Did you buy any toilet paper by any chance? But,
there was, I needed some paper towels. They did not have any paper products. When I talked to the woman at the store, she goes, no, well, the Sunday's the only day we don't get a shipment in. And if you need something, come between 10 and noon because we put stuff on the shelves at 10 o'clock. It's like, interesting. Okay.
Wow.
Learning a lot about the behind the scenes of grocery and department store logistics there. Yeah.
Well,
we managed to get a pack of 10 yesterday. It was the most amazing thing. We literally walked in and thought, that's not something we expect to see. 10 rolls. And we're getting a few evil eyes from other shoppers who were at the time. But our supermarket was no. The supermarket was very well organized, though. They had all the crosses on the ground and everybody had to stand in line. They had a checklist. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great idea. They sprayed sanitizer onto your hands as you entered the shop. They made sure there was no more than 100 people in the shop at one time. As 2 left, 2 could go in. As you say, the shopping trolleys or shopping carts were very clean. So, it's good to see there's some positives coming out of this sort of cleanliness.
We have still some substantial reserves of toilet paper, so we're not close to running out. And I'm hoping that by the time those are exhausted, normality will have resumed and people will realize that toilet paper isn't the commodity that's going to get us through the apocalypse. But,
let us all hope.
So while we've been hearing about that situation, Arthur and I have been chatting behind the scenes about how best to do his segment. Arthur, are you close to getting set up at your end? Okay. Do you want to try the screen share now? Or actually, shall I do the opening segment and then we can worry about the screen share thing?
Yes, of course.
Oh, I love this opening segment.
Yes. I'm quite proud of it. Arthur, there was a big contrast between your smiling face and your studious face that the audience would notice there.
Yes.
Can you just give us a smile just so that we can balance what we've just seen with? Yeah, that's a little bit unnerving, if I'm going to be completely honest. But if you could share your screen, and we'll see if we can get this show on the road. And you need to remember to have the audio thing ticked, or we won't be able to hear the audio.
All right, let's see. Select a window.
I like how flawless this is all flowing together. Seamless, as it were.
Don't ask Brandon for help.
Hey.
Wow.
Brandon has been pushing his technical prowess to the limit.
I know. I forgot. I didn't charge batteries. That's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Yeah.
Well, as a disclaimer for everyone, I haven't tried singing this song yet anywhere. So
I like how you're trying to downplay your skills, but we're having none of it. We're having none of it.
For me as well. So I would like Sacha to introduce
No,
a
leave me
prayer.
out of it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
He wants no part in this, Arthur.
Sing along with Arthur.
Okay. Let's see.
It's quite quiet. Yeah, it's quite quiet there, Arthur.
Volume.
You can never know what's like. Your blood like winter freezes just like ice. There's a cold light that shines from you. You wind up like the wreck you had behind that mask you use. Did you think this fool would never win? Well, look at him coming back again. I gotta taste love in a simple way. And if you need to know why I'm still standing and fade away, don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did? Looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. Now I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the piece of my life without you on my mind. Still standing, yeah. I'm still standing. Yeah. Once I never could have hoped to win, starting down the road, leaving me again. The threats you made my woman to cut my down, and if love was just a circus, you'd be my clown by now. I'm still standing, better than I ever did, looking like a true survivor, feeling like a little kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing, yeah. I'm still standing, yeah.
I can't.
Nicely done, Arthur.
Well done, Arthur. Well done.
Oh, sorry, you're doing the guitar solo. There's more.
I'm still standing, better than I ever did, looking like a true survivor,
Not done
feel
yet,
like a
ladies and
little
gentlemen.
kid. And I'm still standing after all this time, picking up the pieces of my life without you on my mind. I'm still standing, yeah. And I'm still standing, yeah. And I'm still standing, yeah.
It's like we picked up some
And I'm still
professionals.
standing, yeah. And I'm still standing, yeah.
Someone push him over.
And I'm still standing.
Arthur.
Unfortunately, we've lost Arthur's audio. It's just mysteriously cut out for reasons that I'm not entirely sure.
Lloyd,
but
I just got a call from Elton John's agent. He actually wants to sue him for copyright infringement.
Well, sorry, it was.
no, Arthur, great effort. We'll maybe come to the ratings later. All I would say is that you launched into it without any audio whatsoever. So what we got was, while you were hearing the audio, was an a cappella version.
Oh, really?
Yes. What are your thoughts on that aspect of your
Shish
performance?
kebab.
Well, I'd like to, in the spirit of those television shows, just spin my chair around and give the reveal and go.
So
You're not coming back next week.
at least we've learned a lesson for the next sing along with Arthur that I need to do the audio, because it worked sort of, didn't it, last time? But no, it was a bracing experience, perfect for getting people out of bed here in Europe. There's no way that people were going to sleep through that experience. So
maybe if you when we put it on YouTube, you cut off my horrible performance.
Baxter John says it was lovely solo. I don't know whether he was referring to the guitar solo that you were apparently doing on your air guitar, or whether it was the vocals.
Well, we're merely giving the viewers what they want. I mean, in the absence of any live concerts, any music that we can go to now, people are starved. And so, Arthur, thank you for giving the people what they want. Live music.
And Matthew Tino says, I think Arthur will still keep his female fan base. So Cynthia Luna saying, perfect song for the shunned. Frank Razor, oh no, sorry. No, not that one either. No, sorry, hang on. I am going to find a good one. Right, I think this is actually intended in a good way, like as in, wow, hold the front page. So,
well, Lloyd, I said I don't know to sing this song. So
yes, you gave it your best.
It's awesome.
And in the next segment, in the next sing along with Arthur, we'll have the music, so it will all fall into place a bit better. But we are all still standing, and yes. So I don't have any comments that aren't Arthur related. Gosh. Can we have some comments that aren't about what we've just all heard and seen? That would be very much appreciated. We do have 71 on the live stream, still standing, as it were.
Well, I could take us down more of a serious path for a moment, if you like, if you want a complete change of direction.
Yes, that's exactly what I want. So, and also, actually, before you do that, let's add Covert Fade. Welcome, Covert.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Tell us something, Covert.
Tell you something.
Yes. Anything.
Anything at all. It is a little known fact that the best coffee is morning coffee. This is the coffee that I am currently drinking. There are two Coverts. There is Covert before coffee and there is Covert after coffee. Covert before coffee is kind of like a zombie dragging itself out of the rotting grave. And Covert after coffee is Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music, just doing that little spinning amidst the Mountain Alps scene where she's kind of, very happy. And I'm just about to enter the Julie Andrews phase after having gone through the morning zombie phase.
That's a very vivid mental image.
You're welcome.
I wish we could have it fulfilled visually, but we can't, sadly. And what's the situation in dear old Blighty at the moment? Because I'm obviously watching from afar. What's the situation on the ground? What effect is physical distancing having where you are?
Well, where I am, it's very quiet. There are still people, because there's lots of people are allowed to go out once a day for a walk at the moment. So you are seeing people, and also people are allowed to do essential things like go for groceries. It's just very quiet right now, to be honest. I did have a weird experience where I had to do I had to do an essential journey yesterday in the car, and I had to do a very short stretch on the motorway. And one of the weird things is there was a bunch of birds just sat on the motorway, and I had to literally slow down and go around them, and they didn't move. So this is clearly there've been so little traffic that the birds had decided it was safe to basically set up residence on this kind of three-lane motorway, which is very, very rare. So it's just kind of quiet, really. That's the main thing.
That's feeling very much like a post-apocalyptic movie scene, isn't it?
Right.
You'll see weeds growing through the
Nature's taking
weeds
them
growing
back.
through the cracks. Yep.
We've had
have you all noticed too that
Eric Larson saying hello,
you
Covert.
mentioned
Hey, Eric, how you doing? And that is an awesome Batman mask on somebody.
A Batman mask.
Yeah, I think so. Is that Eric's avatar? Has he got? Is that Eric or is
Well,
that someone else wearing
for me, it says I'm social distancing. But yeah, I know what you mean. On Facebook, it has him wearing a Batman mask.
Okay.
And Ray of Light saying good evening. Covert fades. David Morgan saying his accent is so British that my water just turned into tea.
Is that like the British Jesus? He's instead of turning water into wine, he's turning water into tea.
And Deanna saying, I so relate to Covert's coffee fact. She really is a coffee addict, it must be said. Sorry, you were saying, Sacha?
Oh, no, Covert, you mentioned that you went out for a drive and the roads are fairly empty. I've noticed the same here. There's a reduction in cars, certainly not as there is in other parts of the world, but fuel has never been cheaper. Fuel is probably half the cost that it was for years, maybe decades. I think it's at the cheapest price it's been for almost 15 years, which is so ironic because at the time when petrol is as cheap as it can get, you can't go anywhere to drive.
Yeah, well, it's ironic because there's also I vaguely keep my eye on geopolitics, and I know that there's currently an oil war going on between Saudi Arabia and Russia, which has apparently triggered this massive drop in the price of oil per barrel. So apparently we have this weird situation where if you want it, fuel is incredibly cheap, but you're not supposed to be buying it. So it's like the universe going psych.
Yeah, exactly.
We do have one comment from Nesbo9. Maybe you can weigh in on this, Covert. In the UK, policing is stretched to breaking point. One force is on red alert and are not acting on theft and small crimes as they don't have the manpower. Can you shed any light on that? Or
I'll be honest, I've not heard that. They haven't officially reported that at all. I mean, Nesbo9, I don't know which part of the UK you're in. In the part of the UK I'm in, there's actually fairly good law and order. So I don't know if that's a specific issue with one area.
If there's an article that we can share to back up that, we don't want people thinking that there's total anarchy in the UK. If that's not necessarily the case.
I'm not aware of like total anarchy. I mean, it might be the case that in the area he's in, there's a lot of police who are down because one of the issues with the virus is it's not just having the virus. Is if you suspect you've got the virus, you've got to self-isolate. And I know that's one problem that apparently is true in London with the transport system. And I'm not going to get into the politics one way or the other, but one of the arguments is should they be running more tube trains or less to try and space people out? And one of the arguments that they can't is that there's too many workers who are self-isolating, not either because they've got the virus or because they think they might have it. And so in some parts, the police might be having the same thing. I'm not aware of any kind of breakdown of law and order where I am. In fact, people have all been very. One of the things. Oh, okay. I read the news this morning. Thanks, Nesbo9. I haven't seen that yet. One of the things I've seen generally is that people have been very civic-minded. You know, everyone's posting up notes saying, if you need help with anything, let me know. This is my mobile. I mean, you have to be aware of scammers. The police have said people are trying to scam people. But I think it's this thing that I have this thing that human beings are quite social creatures, and in times of difficulty, there are always predators and people who take advantage of it. But I think what you see is the majority of people actually come together and try and help each other out.
That's a good point, Covert. And we've heard anecdotal reports here that petty crimes have actually gone down. Break and enters have gone down, partly because homes are all occupied, of course, and that there is more of a community feeling out on the streets and on the roads. People are being a lot more mindful of one another out on the roads, and certainly not refuting what you were saying, Nesbo, but I would say in general, you're right, Covert. People are looking for the opportunity to display true human kindness. They're looking for the chance to just maybe demonstrate by their own behaviour good social interaction.
So yeah, Arliss Scott here saying there is talk about letting small-time offenders out of prison here in Canada and also in the States. Figured that those places will be overrun with COVID-19. Here's something that I'd be interested to get your thoughts, Brandon and Yvette. It's sort of a problem in America, isn't it, that you guys have a disproportionate prison population compared to other countries, and a lot of the people taking up spaces in the prisons will be due to, like years or decades ago, having once sold marijuana or something like
Yep.
that. And you can kind of
Exactly.
understand how unfair it would be in that situation to be not allowed basically to self-isolate because you're being overly punished, it could be argued, for something that happened years ago in the midst of a pandemic.
Yep. I'd imagine it not well to compare and then not to compare it to Bethel. I'd imagine it felt a lot like Bethel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to your rooms, isolate. But yeah, you're right there. There's been a lot of changes. I don't know if that's as much of, we're getting to politics there,
Yeah.
as much of a problem in Washington, but in other states, it's definitely minor misdemeanors and stuff like that. There's a lot of people that are still in jail for that kind of stuff, or at least it's still on their record. So hoping that
Cool.
changes later on.
Okay.
And they probably don't want to take care of extra people in jail right now either. It's like we have prisons are for profit here. So you're not making a lot of
Yeah.
profit if everyone gets sick and you have to take care of them.
They're like
Indeed.
cruise ships and like big petri dishes. So yeah, it's not the best place to be at probably.
Just that tagging onto that point about, I know that Reveal have done a lot of work on Jehovah's Witnesses, but they've also been, I think, touching on this prisons for profit thing, and it really is unfortunate that what should be intended as a case of keeping people out of circulation is being exploited to some degree to, for manufacturing and that kind of thing, which isn't what it's for. Rachel Hartley saying, I'm in Hampshire and all is quiet and calm, no problems with policing. Not sure whether she sent that comment in during Arthur's segment or after, but at least now all is quiet and calm. Sorry, Arthur. What's the policing situation like in Romania, Arthur?
It's been the same like for the past couple of days when, as I told you in yesterday's live stream, you have to have that
Piece of
paper with you when you go out. And since the infection count rose to 1,815 with over 40 deaths, we are getting very close to level 4 of the lockdown.
Okay.
So it will get.
Arthur, what's your healthcare system like in Romania? What's your intensive care bed ratio and respirators? Do you know much
We
about
want
that?
numbers, Arthur. We want numbers.
I don't know numbers yet, but I will probably look for
I'm
them.
joking. Okay. No, I'm joking. Just seemed like incredibly specific information you were being asked for there.
The only reason I asked that, I was listening to a few podcasts today, and they were talking about the difference between countries who are advanced with healthcare and those who are struggling. And some countries, they're lucky if they have 5 or 6 intensive care beds for 100,000 people, and some countries are double that. And then that's before you start to get into respirators, and that is having a direct correlation with how many people are obviously dying once they get to that serious stage. So you're right, 40 deaths sounds terrible for...
I think we've had 6 now in Croatia. Diana can correct me.
So it's really
on this. Yeah.
It's really fortunate that we didn't reach a stage where people when doctors have to choose whom to save because there's too few beds or respirators or emergency room equipment.
I think in a lot of places it's already getting to that point. I was going to mention it seems like things have kind of went in a wave in the United States from the West Coast to the East Coast. I've got a close family member in the medical profession on the East Coast who works in a small hospital, 1 portable ventilator. And it's interesting. Several weeks ago, they went from this is not a big deal to posting, basically resorting to scare tactics to get people to stay home, posting pictures of laryngoscopes, the thing they use to actually intubate people. And put the endotracheal tube down their throats to connect to the ventilators. So they're definitely starting to feel the heat over there on the East Coast now, it sounds like.
And they said even one of their nurses are in ICU right now for it.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. David
I think
Morgan.
maybe this is a good time that we can give a shout out to those on the front line of health as well. You mentioned
Amen.
those.
That.
Yeah, we all know of some, or even if we don't, but thank you all so much, because those who are struggling on the front lines are getting no sleep. They're getting very few resources. They're working themselves to the bone. And on behalf of everybody, we really want to say thank you, because this is a selfless act you're doing, and much appreciated.
That wearing that personal protective equipment 24/7 it chafes from what I've been seeing. So yeah, a lot of sacrifice there. Thank you.
David Morgan saying, can confirm here in Wales that police resources are stretched, although they appear to have plenty of time for investigating mean tweets. And your mean tweets, David. I hope not. And Nesbo9 giving us there the link, so he's backing up what he said earlier. It's apparently in the Times that police are stretched in the UK. Hope Havelit
Fake news.
Hope Havelit says Highway Patrol is still setting up speed traps, which is mind-blowing. People can't pay their bills and people are still getting pulled over for speeding. Yeah, that does seem like an odd time to be, trying to catch people, basically, with speed traps.
We need to pay for this stimulus package somehow.
I've just lost my place in. I'm sorry to hear that, Rianne. Liverpool Hospital called. My son is not going home today. Saturday. Sorry, I don't know whether you mean stats or sats, not optimal. Yes, I'm really sorry to hear that, Rianne. I can imagine that's a blow for you. When you're so near yet so far. So I hope that situation is able to change soon. Nesbo9 saying it's not a breakdown in law and order yet, and won't be, as the army will be called in if needed. It's a reprioritizing of manpower. All the same, you could say that where there's a lack of attention to crimes such as theft, etc., there are those that would unfortunately take advantage of that, aren't there? So, and Cynthia Luna making a point that domestic violence has increased. If you think about it, this is the worst situation, isn't it, for those who are suffering from domestic violence? They are literally captive, aren't they, in this situation?
And it's a good point. Thanks for raising that, Cynthia. One positive is that we know that many of the governments, including, I can only speak of Australia, but they speak about other governments around the world, are recognising this. They're recognising that in a situation where you have to self-isolate, but perhaps you're in an environment where it's not safe to do so, they've sunk a lot of resources into making safe alternatives available, which is beautiful to do, to see, to cut a lot of the red tape out of the way so that these ones can be given the help that they need. But yes, with heightened stress comes heightened risk of domestic violence. And yeah, we recognise that there's definitely a need for these ones to be supported.
Yeah, school and work are safe havens for those abused, and obviously those are safe havens that are less accessible during times such as this. Jenny Smith saying, I also live in Wales, and it was a surreal feeling queuing 2 meters apart to get to pharmacy, groceries, whilst everywhere else is a ghost town. That is a kind of new reality of this whole situation, and it's going to be interesting to see how things go back to normality once, if that ever were to happen. Of course, we are billing this as an apocalyptic live stream, so it could conceivably, I suppose, be the end of the world, in which case we'll never go back to normality. Just throwing that out there. You never know, do you? Tony Morris.
Captain Ray of Sunshine here.
Right.
I'm just saying, we can't prove, can we? We can't prove that Tony Morris isn't going to come down out of the clouds at some point and start whacking people. We've got to consider all eventualities.
I'll appease him. I've been stockpiling Macallan 12. I'll appease him. All hail our new rambling, slightly drunk overlords.
Yeah, it doesn't bother him. Yeah.
It doesn't bother us either. No. Well,
we talk about
it'll get worse.
You know, there's a lot of things that have changed. We have to acknowledge that. And yes, there's a lot of stress. But I read an interesting post today that I thought I'd just share about the things that we can keep in mind while we're going through these difficult patches. The post was called "Not Everything is Cancelled," and it said, "Sunshine's not cancelled. Nice days, nice weather's not cancelled. Relationships are not cancelled. Love is not cancelled. Reading is not cancelled. Listening to your favourite music is not cancelled. Your imagination is not cancelled. Kindness is not cancelled. Conversations are not cancelled. And hope is not cancelled." You know, we tend to focus on all the things that are being cancelled and all of the inconveniences and the changes that are going on around us. But there's still things within us that we can remember, that we can make the best of a bad situation. Sometimes this has been said that this is the most productive time because we finally get to catch up on the things that we never got a chance to do before, or keep in touch with people like we never did before. We don't have to rush off to a meeting or rush off to work or rush off to do these things. So we've got time to invest in our relationships, in our own personal mental health, in our own physical health. And in our own headspace. So there can be some positives, I suppose. It just comes down to how we choose to react to it. Focus on the things that aren't cancelled, not the things that are.
Raheem would like to know how long we're going to do the lockdown live streams for. I don't really have an answer for you there. I guess for as long as I feel, you know, I can contribute in some way through doing them. So at the moment, they seem to be very well received. We're getting some nice comments, both in the live chats and also once they end up on YouTube. So if I sense that the tide has turned and people just don't need them anymore, then I'll maybe stop doing them. But for now, I'll give it a go. Because again, I'm broadcasting at a time of the day when I'm usually not doing much anyway. So yeah.
Have you guys seen the videos with everyone clapping and cheering for the going back to the folks on the front end?
Yeah,
I've seen the ones of Italy circulated pretty well, but then I saw one last week of Atlanta, Georgia. Same thing, folks outside clapping and cheering and coming together. And it sounds like Seattle's doing a hashtag make a joyful noise, hashtag Seattle together thing too. We've actually stepped outside of our door the past few nights and heard people cheering, and some folks even shot off fireworks, even though it's not technically legal here. But that's been nice to hear some thanks being given.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
we had an initiative that was started by our local council to they actually printed up, or they had a template on their website that people could print up and fill in, and it was a little business card size thing saying, "Hello, I'm your neighbour. My name is. My telephone number is. If you need anything." And they're encouraging people to slip those under the doors of your immediate neighbours. Most of us already know our immediate neighbours. I mean, we're privileged to have a beautiful relationship with the 4 or 5 houses around us. But it's a great initiative. Yes, we've got to be cautious, of course, but for the council to instigate or to initiate that was a beautiful thing. And people have been really responding well to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
This goes on to what you were saying, Sacha, about how people have got to look at what's still there, and what's still there is community. And even events that are dark and unpleasant do have unexpected positive aspects. And one might be maybe that we all come out of this with a stronger appreciation for the people around us and of what those community bonds. You suddenly realize how important it is to have people around you that you can keep. One of the lamentations about the 21st century is people feel that sense of community might be going away. And I think something that events like this do make us realize is the importance of having that community. So maybe that's a silvery lining to the cloud.
Well said. Okay, so Nesbo9 saying, "I'm loving the live streams. We'll listen as long as you do them." Eric Larson says the live streams will stop whenever Sacha runs out. A day that I hope never comes. That will surely be a sign of the last days when Sacha is no longer able to come up with his poetry.
I'm sure Sherry will be very sad.
There will be signs in heaven and great poems, and you'll hear reports of poems in one place after another.
You will hear of writer's block and reports of writer's block.
There you go.
Pestilences and songs from Arthur. Yes.
Eric Larson warned that Kenny Rogers is ready to strike. He is obviously now no longer
Yeah,
of this
sadly
mortal
passed on,
coil.
hasn't he? Yeah.
So just putting it out there, coincidence perhaps, but okay. A lockdown live stream a day keeps the watchtower away. That's a good substitute tagline for the live stream, isn't it? Really, I should enter into talks with you about purloining.
And keeps us awake.
Yes,
indeed. Let's just see
Very
here.
So we're talking about
No, Matthew, we're not goading Covert into doing that.
This is my real face.
And
I am
also,
I am a
he would
slightly
also
strange-looking cartoon cat. That's my real face. This is what
he
I
would
look
also blow his cover, and as we all know, he's an international man of mystery, and multiple operations would be compromised. So no, we won't be encouraging him to do that.
And it's not even his real voice, we'll have you know.
like. I'm played by an actor.
Definitely, that sexy newsreader voice is something that is
Arthur, how
generated.
did you just describe Covert Fade's voice?
It's the British voice of apostasy.
No, that's not how you described it. How did you describe Covert Fade's voice?
I described it as the sexy newsreader of JW Survey. One man, one voice,
Covert,
one desire.
Thoughts on the fact that Arthur finds your voice sexy?
Well, he's only human.
He's like, he's not wrong.
I chose the wrong time to take a drink of water.
Well, it's sexy from the viewer's perspective. Don't.
It's an overlapping sexiness.
Love it.
I like it. Overlapping sexiness.
With a voice like that, who needs a face?
That sounds like a really, really awful Tinder profile name, doesn't it? Overlapping sexiness, swipe right. That's just awful.
I bet right now people are taking notes. Must change my Tinder profile to overlapping sexiness.
I know. How's everyone's online dating lives gone? Because that must be, if you're in an online dating situation right now, that's just killed everything, hasn't it?
We go to Arthur.
Yes.
How's your online dating going, Arthur?
Well, it doesn't have to be only online,
Good point. Good point. Yeah, it doesn't have to be only online. I've got some
more lines that.
Although it must be said that in a pandemic with
lines.
Social distancing, online is probably the way to go. Unless, otherwise, you're very limited, aren't you, in your options?
Yes.
I know you have a dog there, but presumably you'll want to cast your net further.
Of course.
Oh,
do you want some more
dog's
lines
name,
you can
Arthur?
use?
I got some for you. Did you do this one yet? Without you, my life is as empty as a supermarket shelf.
I like it. I like that.
Get the super top one.
Oh, I think you maybe already did this one though. Is that hand sanitizer in your pocket? Are you just happy to be within 6 feet of me? Yeah, you did this one.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I sent those to my cousin the other day.
I love it. How about once you spend a bit of time together and you've just got to finish it going, no, really, I can't stay, or you can't spell virus without you and I.
I like that one. That's good.
All right. You can't spell quarantine without you are a QT.
That's bad.
That's amazing.
Swipe left. Swipe left.
Baby, it's COVID-19 outside. Oh dear.
COVID fade.
Here's one that would only work for the American viewers. Baby, do you need toilet paper? Because I can be your Prince Charming.
Oh, Chucky.
Oh boy.
Stop him! Somebody stop him! Somebody do something!
Before
Somebody
I
do
felt we
something.
were providing a service, and now I feel as though someone needs to provide a service to stop us from what we're doing. You know? That's silenced him.
Despite all that silliness, I can give you some good motivational stuff as well, but I'm not sure how seriously anybody will take it after that.
Nesbo9 says, Sacha, good job, you're already married.
I've used those lines on Sherry and she just rolls her eyes.
Patricia Brown saying, when are we allowed to shower? All they keep saying is to wash our hands. Is that in response to what we were just saying, Patricia? White Choco 111 says, this is my favorite part of isolation. Keep it up, Lloyd. Thank you so much, White Choco. I'll do my very best. And with such excellent panelists, it's certainly much easier than it would be sustaining 90 minutes just babbling all by myself. We are, however, slightly running out of comments. I mean, unless we want to think about this comment from Rianne, who seems to be describing Covert Fade. Can you melt chocolate with your voice, Covert? Is this true?
I can, but I'm not allowed back into Cadbury's. So, they won't let me back in anymore.
Confirmation there.
Yeah.
Confirmation that the rumors are true.
I'm actually going to have to bid you all a fond farewell. I have to drop off. I'm supposed to be on a work meeting in about 10 minutes, so I have to prepare. So
I think we'll join you actually, because I'm kind of running out of things to talk about, and I don't want to just kind of babble for the sake of it. Yeah.
No. Can I end with a brief positive thing from our national broadcaster, ABC News? They had some really nice positive stuff, because at the end of the day, we love to have a laugh. We also like to give a bit of support and encouragement to those who are going through isolation and all of the anxiety. So just briefly, it had a nice article about how we can take care of our mental health during this pandemic and the situation. They said it's unsettling with coronavirus hitting our shores. It's very common to feel fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, confusion, sadness, and denial. But allow yourself the opportunity to feel those things. It's quite normal to feel that way for a not normal situation. So there's a bunch of organisations have recommended good ways to keep our mental health in line. First thing, stick to your usual routine as much as possible, even if you're in isolation. Stay connected to friends, family, colleagues. Do things that make you feel good and grounded. Avoid alcoholic beverages and drugs. Keep exercising if you can. And you might need to get creative on how you can exercise with the changes of laws. Take a break from the news. Sherry shared some things with us the other week about the value of that, keeping the news intake to a minimum. A constant stream of negative info can take a huge psychological toll. So avoid posts about the apocalypse. Maybe just limit your daily intake to a couple of designated times throughout the day so that it doesn't become overwhelming. Balance your perspective with good news. There are plenty of people working hard to develop a vaccine. There are plenty of people volunteering their time and working selflessly in our communities, both on the front line and in other support services. There are scientists working tirelessly to sort this out. And then all of the references, when you need more, take advantage of the mental health providers that are there. Phone lines and sorts of government departments or volunteer organisations that can provide the support. Share positive stories with friends and family of things that you hear, which is kind of what we've been doing with our chats as well. So yeah, lend a hand, look for ways to do something practical, follow the suggestions and guidance of the authorities, and allow yourself to process things in your own time. But don't forget to see the good things that are happening in our daily life. There is something to be thankful for, no matter what it is, every single day.
Well, thank you very much, Sacha. We'll let Covert go because he has work to do. Thanks so much for joining us, Covert.
See you guys. See you tomorrow.
Thanks,
See
Covert.
you tomorrow. Take care.
Thanks, Covert. Have a good day.
And just a quick word that one or two asking about voicemails. I do have some voicemails to play, but I'm just trying to accumulate a few before we do more voicemails in future shows. So if you are interested in having your voicemail on the show, here is the address to use: speakpipe.com/Cedars. Alternatively, if you're interested in sending in a video message, you can send in up to 30 seconds, I'm afraid, which is the most I can give you due to technical restrictions. But here's the email address to use if you're interested in sending in a video message. But all that remains is for me to thank my wonderful panel for today's lockdown live stream. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Hang in there, folks.
So viewers, that's all we have for you today. Please do join us tomorrow at around the same time, whatever it is locally your time, and we'll do another lockdown live stream. But thank you so much for watching. Take care.